Hey, welcome back to VolksCast Radio. I'm your host, Ray Iddings, and I have on the phone Ron Flemming. How are you, Ron?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I am doing great. As we start every show, Ron, you got to tell us your VW story. How did you get into VWs?
Well, it actually is kind of a roundabout deal. I was drag racing a Mustang back in the 60s.
Okay.
I'm getting a little feedback here. It was a 65 Mustang, and I did a lot of work to it. Was breaking trannies all the time. Was running the...
Sounds like VW racing.
And I said, I'm tired of this. I need something to get me some good fuel mileage. So I bought a VW. And that didn't last very long. I had to start messing with it. And I was like 19 years old then. And I started messing with it.
Do you remember what year that first car was?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, that was about 1966.
So it was a 66 that you bought? Or what year was the car?
No, it was in 66. It was a 1954.
Ah. And so you started messing with it. What would you say was the first performance enhancement you did besides taking the back seat out?
Well, the first thing I did was to put an exhaust system on it.
Yeah. And then tell us kind of, so you started racing it, and obviously you liked racing it.
Well, yeah, and then I got hooked up with some guys that had in a VW club called Decliner Panzers.
Okay.
And we started, it was kind of a regular street car club, and because I was a drag freak, I kind of redirected the club, and we became relatively well-known VW street drag race club.
Okay. And who was any famous people in that, famous in the VW world?
My partner Greg Aronson and I later on became a little bit famous. I don't want to beat our drum, but at the time our idols were Dean Lowry,
yeah,
the Batones, Impy, and we used to go up to Riverside and hang around then when Dean ran the shop in the back.
Right.
And it just kind of grew from there, and then we went from having kind of mild street cars to pretty wild stuff. In the day we had what we called a top 10 board.
Okay.
And we'd have cars in the club that would run high 11s, low 12s.
Wow.
This is back in the late 60s and early 70s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, because that's, I don't think a lot of people realize that at that time, I mean, you just didn't walk in and buy a big set of heads and build a big motor and away you go. You had to know somebody who had a machine, and that's a huge deal. So,
well, we used to have our own parts made by, at the time, American car parts manufacturers. Reef Automotive made us a couple of stroker cranks. They had no idea about it. Uncounterweighted, welded up, big cranks. We had to use Corvair pistons and modified rods that we did ourselves, and couldn't buy the parts you can buy today.
Did they think you were crazy that you wanted to make a bug go fast?
Oh, very much so.
Well, I think they still think that, don't they?
Oh, yeah. For a lot of years, we had a lot of fun beating V8 stuff, Detroit iron and all that.
So kind of walk me to how the cow look, which I know is a term that was coined by Hot VWs, but
right.
Tell me how you're credited as being one of the inventors of that look, that style of cars. Tell me what attracted to you to that. Was it necessity?
Well, the basic thing that led to the look was the cars needed to be lighter, so we took the bumpers off, and we wanted to go faster. And then we dropped them down a little in the front. To our mind's eye, it was aerodynamic. We wanted lightweight, so we took the stock seats out and got fiberglass buckets and had upholstery done. We minimized the car, took the chrome off, kind of streamlined it and turned it into what we thought was a drag bug for the street.
Gotcha. Well, what did you think in '75 when Hot VWs came out with that cow look issue for the first time, and it's the car that you'd been building for the last, 10 years?
Well, fortunately, some of the people were and have been my friends for years on Hot VW's magazine, so we're kind of in the know of what was going on. But Lane Evans, at the time, was the art director there, and he coined the look and created that famous logo. So we may have started the look, but he named it.
So when did you decide that you were going to try to make a living out of VWs with the whole fat performance?
Well, I went to work for Gene Berg because I was really excited about the whole deal and the prospect of doing it. So I got a job with Gene, and my now partner Greg, I got him a job at Gene's, and we worked there for a couple, 3 years. And then we finally decided we'd go out on our own. And so we went to work at Greg's parents' house. It's kind of a unique thing. We had to make the shop be there from about 8 to 5 in the garage of the parents' home, and then it had to disappear when they got home. So the workbenches had to go away, the engine stands had to go away, and we were very fortunate. We were real busy.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the story is we used to have 2 or 3 cars out front jacked up with no motors in them. And we knew the local police, and they'd come by and they finally said, guys, look, rent a building. Go somewhere and, and start a business, because you guys are obviously real busy, and we can't have tow trucks come take your livelihood. That was in about 1970, and we opened the doors at the time then called Flemming and Aronson High Performance.
Right.
July 1st, 1971. So this July will be 35 years.
My goodness.
As a matter of fact, we thought, we'll do this for about 10 years, the VW Speed Shop thing.
Sure.
And then we'll get real jobs. And we've been real fortunate. We found our niche in off-road racing. We started out doing street motors and drag motors, but we kind of inadvertently backed into off-road racing and have been very successful.
What would you say has been the biggest, in the last 35 years, what would you say has been probably the biggest improvement in just VW performance overall?
Okay, for the majority of people, I think it's the wide availability of so many parts. It rivals the small block Chevrolet in as much as what you can just go to almost anywhere and buy as far as cranks, heads, piston cylinders, intake systems, for the whole gamut. And for fat, I would say it's our development of the Type 4 motor for off-road racing. We call it the big block of VW.
Yeah.
And we've been real successful building those 3-liter motors for a lot of years.
Well, I was just going to say, even in the past couple of years, it's that motor's been incredibly successful still.
Oh, yeah.
What do you, when you look at, because what amazes me is that, even in the late 80s, 1835s were like big motors. And VWs had, the high-performance VW era had been around for like 20 years.
That's right.
Why is it in the last, 10 or 15 years that there's been such big leaps made?
Well, I think it's because there's so many companies involved in having parts made in Brazil, in China, and outside of the U.S., and making the cost affordable for people.
Well,
people can build a big motor now. With in the old days, when they were available, the good parts, they were from Germany. They were Okasa, Oettinger, and they were expensive. But nowadays, you can buy a stroker crank for a third of what it used to cost.
Sure.
And you can buy from Molly forged rods now, where in the old days you had to buy Carrillos or Potter or very expensive parts, which, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with the parts, but they make them in such great volume the prices come down.
How do you feel when you hear about kids that are going out and turning 12s and mid 11s off of without as much hard work as you had to do? Is that kind of amazing to you? Is that kind of a great thing?
Well, it's statement to all the, let me phrase this correctly, old guys like us that paved that yellow brick road, shall I say?
Yes.
That you can go and buy a set of heads now that are CNC ported and all those things, and I think it's wonderful. It keeps the sport alive.
John Hunt asked me that if he wanted to know if you bought a Project Pinks raffle ticket, that car that we raced on Pinks that we're giving away. He was wondering if you bought one of those tickets and won, would you get back into VW drag racing?
Well,
would you come out?
I am.
I'm sorry?
I am.
You are?
Yeah. About 6 months ago, an old friend of mine named Mike Hunsaker, who was a member in the club, and he and I raced a car, you might remember, the Tar Baby together.
Yes.
And he has a PRA Super Street car for the last few years. He's been having a young guy drive, and for whatever reason, they fell out of love. And he came to me 6 months ago and said, "You want to do this again?" I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." I said, "How about this? I'll fix the motor because the motor was broke. We'll go out and see if the old guy can still pull a shift. And if that happens, then we'll go racing." Well, we went out, and I did okay. So we're going PRA racing. First race, I think, this year is in May in Sacramento.
Absolutely. So you'll be in Sacramento.
We will be in Sacramento.
Oh, that is awesome.
We call it the AARP racing guys, All-American Racing Professionals, or something like that.
That is great. And you know what? Are you going to ask for a discount on your entry fee, senior citizens discount?
Heck yeah. I go to the show and I get a senior rate now.
Absolutely. That is awesome. Because it's great that so many guys that really have been around for a long time are either still around or still are coming back around. I mean, what do you think about this resurgence in the past, 2 or 3 years of VW drag racing again?
Well, I think it's marvelous, and for one, I'd like to challenge some of the guys that have super street cars out there to bring them out, because last year there was a little dwindling off at the races and stuff, and they only had 2 or 3 cars, and I'm telling you, you got a car out there, come try to beat the old man.
You guys heard it. He just threw the gauntlet down. He just threw the gauntlet down.
Absolutely.
That is excellent. That is excellent. Do you think some of it has to do with promoters need to put the event back in events, and
I think that's part of it, but I'm going to tell you something else. There's a little problem with some of the guys with these cars. They got their egos a little misplaced, and they're saying, "Well, you need to pay me money to come out." And my thought to that is, you know what? Come out. Let's put on a good show, and then the promoter can sell the event, and then it might happen.
Right. Well, because guys are complaining that VW events are getting smaller and smaller, and it's because car counts are down, and that excitement that needs to be there.
Well, and I'll also tell you another thing. My dear old friend Rich Kimball has invited me over the last few years to help him with his Hot VW's drag race.
Yes.
And while we only race an 8th mile, I challenge those guys to bring their hot rods out there.
That is great.
And have some fun.
You just keep challenging them, man. That's
I
awesome.
them out there. I'd rather try to beat those guys and get beat than go to a race where there's only 2 or 3 guys.
Well, it's great. I was talking to a guy today, and he was telling me that in a street race years ago that he had beaten you, that he figured you probably wouldn't remember it, but that's like a highlight of his career, is beating you at a street race.
Well, I didn't win every race I was in.
Where was your favorite place to race?
Well, I'm sorry, there was a little there.
Where was your favorite place that you ever raced at? Favorite track?
Of course, Orange County International Raceway.
That's your favorite, huh?
Yeah, I used to go out there every Wednesday night, and we had so much fun with a car you might remember called the Underdog.
Yep.
And we used to pull big wheel stands. We knew the starter, Doug Cookie Cook, and he would let us burn out across the line. We were kind of a crowd favorite, and we really had a lot of fun. But if I had to pick my highlight,
yes,
it was making the Super Nationals at Ontario to the semi-finals in 1971 when Ontario was a big place. And for the first time, the underdog and Doug Gordon, the owner, and myself were in about 7 or 8 pages of National Dragster.
Wow.
And so it was kind of neat. We didn't win,
right?
But we got to the final.
Now, have you you've made it to quite a few tracks, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I haven't done all the trek all over the U.S. like Paul Schley and Darrell Vitone used to do, but I was all over the Magnificent Seven, Division 7. You know, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, California.
Well, I think you just told me what your most memorable VW race was. What was your most memorable muscle car street race?
There was a guy back in the early days in Anaheim called, his name was Diamond Jim, and he was the king of all the V8 guys around Orange County.
Okay.
And he set up a race between myself and in my black oval window and a guy named Dickie, I forget his last name, but it had a little vet called Dickie's Vet. And the thing was really fast. It was actually faster than my car, but back in the days when La Palma ended at Norwoods, now I want my sons not to listen to this. I never street raced, but we had a little competition back there. And because he was so excited, he just boiled the tires, and we had a little quarter-mile marked off, and I think I might have beat him by about an inch.
Wow.
And of course, it was because he fried the tires, and I went, gone, you know?
Right, absolutely.
And he went flying by me at the end, but I was there first.
Who was your favorite guy to race, you know, when you were racing? Who was your favorite guy to race against? I'm sorry?
Ed Sigmund.
Ed Sigmund?
Yeah, he had a car called the Snarpeasel, which was an MG with about a 480-inch Chevrolet Rat motor in it. That was when we raced Modified Eliminator.
Oh, okay.
And he was good, and he was fast, and I think I probably raced him 10 times in Modified Eliminator over a few-year period, and I only beat him once, but it was it was at the Orange County Points meet, and it put me in the semifinal against Darrell Vitone.
Well, now, you know, we're doing a Gene Berg Memorial Show here in a couple of weeks to coincide with the cruise. You have to give us your Gene story. What was it like working for Gene? What's your favorite Gene story?
Gene was a wonderful, wonderful guy, and he inspired a lot of people, and he was a great creative person. But my greatest story is it happened every night at the original shop. Because he didn't trust any regular alarm system, he used to make him and I string fine copper wire. It took us probably, 15 minutes all through the shop, so that if somebody did get in, they got cut to ribbons walking through the wire. And it never got used.
Oh,
and because I would come in the morning and open it up, I'd have to come in and remember to duck low, come in, up, turn on the lights, and then start cutting off all the wires.
Oh, that is great.
A fabulous guy and an inspiration to a lot of people.
So now this is going to be my Oprah question to you, Ron.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to still have this little company started in a garage, still 35 years later, still around, still relevant? What's that like?
Well, I'll tell you. And I tell my kids, I have a couple of boys. One's going to be 22, one's going to be 18 this year. And if there's one thing I try to pass on them, I says, no matter what you do, and I try to get them, one's in college, one's in high school, get a good education. Whatever you end up doing, try to do something that you like that people will pay you to do. Because every morning in my life I get up and go, let's go to the speed shop and see what's going on today. And I never get up and say, I got to go to work. So if there's anything that's important in life, it's making enough money to be happy, whatever that is, and love doing what you do to do it.
So do you guys have any secret projects that you can tell us about that are coming out? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think we just hung up on Ron. The the phone just gave out. But you know what? That's a great. That's going to be a great opportunity. We'll take a quick break. We'll try to get Ron back on the phone. And don't you love how we're nothing but cliffhangers tonight, man? It's all about the cliffhanger. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with VolksCast Radio.
We're talking to you live at Speed World Raceway in Surprise, Arizona. This is Dino Don along with Ray Iddings and a host of other jumbo jabbers. I'm so special. Hope you enjoy yourselves. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back to VolksCast Radio. Ron, are you there?
I'm here.
You know what? Do you know anything about phone systems? Because
no, I don't.
Because you know what? Our phone systems are the worst. You know what? I can't get the things to work for crap, and I apologize for you.
Not a problem.
We're just all about cliffhangers tonight is what I told everybody. We just want to keep them wanting more. I totally lost my place where I was going. But so you're amazed that the company is still around because you love what you do.
I enjoy it very much.
I just think I'm just wondering how cool it is to, you've got a place, carved out in VW history. Not many people can say that. Not many people can claim to be the inventor of a style of cars.
Well, I want to tell you for sure that while I take part in it,
sure.
and Greg and I are credited, there were a number of members of DKP that were all involved in it. And while we're out on the forefront, all those guys were involved in it too. That club back in the late 60s and early 70s was just a very special group of guys. And I still see most of them today. The ones that are still walking, anyway.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you. Oh, that's good. You're killing me.
He's got some classic lines.
Absolutely. We're going to have to get you to cut a gag reel for us, Ron. Who knew you were so funny?
Well, you know what? I've been real fortunate. The VW Classic weekend, you're aware of that event.
Absolutely.
I've been lucky enough to announce that now for a number of years, and I really get a kick out of doing that.
So are you announcing again this year, too?
I am.
Excellent. We need to figure out. See, now we have to figure out how to get you hooked up so we can broadcast that live. Because I think
I'd love to do that.
Oh, we're going to try not to lose you again, Ron. Our phones are messing up. See?
Okay.
This is horrible. It's not even your fault. So you're going to be back racing again this year.
Yeah.
And Sacramento's going to be your first race. Can you tell us a little bit about the car?
A couple of times.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? Motor on it?
It's all white. The neatest thing about it is the way the rules are now, you're allowed to move the tranny and engine in the car up a few inches.
Yep.
So without even having to chop top, you can walk up to the car, stand, and put your elbow straight out, and it's on the top of the roof. And I'm trying to get Mike to let us chop the top. Because you can do that, too, and then the car will be about 3 feet tall.
Oh, that would be wicked.
But it's a beautiful car, and I'll tell you a quick little story. We went out to Pomona to test, and it was the Sport, Compact, and Import World Finals.
Right. And
so we went on Saturday, and because we don't technically qualify for their own motor class because it has no front brakes, we entered their quick 16 just to test. And I went out and made a couple of passes and turned up being number 3 qualifier. And I went to the guys and said, "We're leaving." He said, "Well, you'll be back tomorrow, right?" And I said, "No, the Hot VW's drag day's tomorrow, and I'm the race director there, so I'm not coming back." And he goes, "You're kidding." He said, "You're number 3 qualifier." I said, "We're excited about that, but we just came to test." So, and we're off the pace, I want to tell you. The hot guys in Super Street have been running 1030-something, 1035s on the new weight, and we are only running the 1050s, but we got some new stuff working. We got a new pair of heads that Roger Crawford has been kind enough to help us with.
Oh, cool.
His new late model style 910s with the special rockers and stuff. So we're working on some stuff.
Was it like falling off a log? Did you ease right back into that first pass down the track?
One of the guys that worked for me took a video camera out there, and when I made the pass, the first pass, and I ran 1080, and 127 miles an hour, and he came at the very end. He was just screaming and yelling. He said, "You got to see this video. I can't believe it." He goes, "It's like you never stopped doing it."
That is.
So while it was a little off the pace, I was pretty excited. As a matter of fact, I was giggling in the car like a young kid, and I ran it through the backside of the lights, and I looked up at the tach. It was 9100, and I said, "Oh, my God, you old man, shut this thing down."
And now you're going to be competing for the points and everything, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I'm going to have to check in with you during the year to find out where you're at. That's going to be a blast. So is there any big secret project that you're working on over at FAT?
No, but I'll tell you one thing. We're as busy now as we've ever been, and one of the reasons is because we've diversified. You know, we're very big on VW motors. It's our number one product, but we build Toyotas, Hondas, V6s. We do all kinds of stuff different, and we're just as busy as we can be. But our heart's still with VW.
Do you think that the VWs are unwanted at these import races because
I do.
There's nothing to sell to them, because VW Corporation doesn't have anything to sell to them?
Well, yeah, I have a little problem with VW over the years. You know, they kind of always turned a silent ear to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they really could have got involved. Only now are they really involved in a youth movement, I would say. If you see some of their commercials nowadays, you know, they're really speaking to young people.
Sure.
And they could have done it so many years ago.
Right, because it's obvious they have a product that people like.
Oh, yeah.
They just kind of turn their back on the whole air-cooled side of the business.
Yeah, we like to say they know Hobla VW. They only speak in Golf and GTI and Jetta, you know.
Oh, that is great. Well, Ron, this has been a great half an hour. It's went very quickly.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
And you know, I was actually kind of nervous about this interview because you're one of my heroes, Ron. And
thank you very much. And I'm still a young VW drag racer stuck in an old guy's body.
Well, thanks for coming on, Ron, and we will check in with you during the year to find out how you're doing, and I wish you luck, and I hope you go out there and kick some tail.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron.
I appreciate it. We're going to take them on one young guy at a time.
Nice. Ron Flemming, ladies and gentlemen.